Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to the Pepper Dynamics Podcast, the unofficial podcast which highlights the Pepperdine Grazie a Dio Graduate School community. This episode of Pepper Dynamics is done in conjunction with Net Impact. Net Impact is an international network which inspires and equips emerging leaders to build a more just and sustainable world, and it is done through student organizations such as the one here at Pepperdine Grazie a Dio. And of course, we are happy to have the faculty advisor for Net Impact as today's guest, Robert Bikel. Greetings, Robert. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Robert, in addition to being an advisor for Net Impact, you are also director of the SEER program and instructor of SEER Business and Management here at Pepperdine Grazie a Dio Business School. You have your own strategy consultant type business specializing in sustainability-oriented business. And you're also a professor here, teach classes focused on strategy, focus on the alignment between corporate social responsibility, strategic planning, and a number of other things. You've been at Pepperdine since 2011 when you were a Grazie a Dio MBA alum. So I am happy to have you on to give us some information about some of the things you do here at Pepperdine.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a lot when you say it like that.
It's a mouthful, but hey, you know what? When we have responsibilities, I think that means that we are important to the organization, right? I want to talk a little bit about this SEER program, socially, environmentally, and ethically responsible business strategy. The SEER certificate is a complement to the Grazie a Dio MBA degree created by former Patagonia CEO Michael Crook, and I am sure I'm missing a whole bunch of information. So if you'll give us some information about the framework, it's tied to corporate social responsibility. Just walk us through the SEER program, the certificate, and everything it entails.
Sure. So the SEER program here, actually, I mean, I see it. I mean, it's natural that I would see it as more than just a compliment. It really is a deep, tangible expression of the mission of the school. And Pepperdine, as a university, and the Grazie a Dio School, since its inception, has always been focused on value-centered business strategy, value-centered leaders. And the SEER program is sort of a deeper dive into how values can bolt into, in an authentic way, into business, which is easy to say, and of course much more complicated once you get into the weeds of how you actually do that. So it was born, as you say, from my predecessor, Michael Crook, who really developed the mindset of SEER while CEO of Patagonia. And for Ty, I assume that you might be familiar with Patagonia, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners have at least heard of the company. So Patagonia, of course, is been long held as sort of the vanguard of socially and especially environmentally responsible firms. And while Michael was at Patagonia, he actually was also pursuing a PhD and looked at the connection between engagement, both internally and externally, and values. And so the SEER mindset has four fundamental, what we call macro values, which are financial strength, social responsibility, environmental stewardship, and a relentless pursuit of product and or service quality. And it's that interconnection between those values that really undergirds the SEER mindset. And so the certificate is a way of allowing students, regardless of discipline or concentration, to gain an extra credential that shows that they understand how these macro values weave throughout a business. And really, the idea of the SEER model is that it applies to any organization, whether or not it's actualized or not. And it could be a for-profit, could be nonprofit, could be a government, doesn't matter.
The interesting question I have, I guess, regarding Michael Crook, and he said he started when he was at Patagonia, and I guess post-Patagonia is when he was here at Pepperdine. And did he bring it here? Like, is Pepperdine the only school that has the SEER program, or what is the depth of it? Like, how wide does this go? Is it in other businesses, or talk to me a little bit about that part?
Yeah, you'll notice that the elements of the SEER model, with the exception of the product service quality, are pretty would be pretty familiar to anyone who's heard of something called the triple bottom line. So people, planet, and profit. And so it's been a long standing philosophy of corporate social responsibility, of looking at this idea of a triple bottom line of impact in not just financial impact and value creation, but also creating value for social stakeholders and environmental stakeholders. And so that's pretty prevalent. And you still see that in a lot of the HBR articles and all over. So that's a lot. That's pretty universal as an idea that businesses should at least keep track of, if not try to improve operations and effects on those three measures. The SEER model itself is proprietary to Pepperdine, from Patagonia, and also has been adopted at University of Oregon and through our alumni network and also through our executive education. So this is sort of a unique way of looking at how these values interconnect that is proprietary to the school.
Right, and you mentioned the unique aspect of it is the product service component. Expand on that just a tad.
Yeah, so that shouldn't surprise anybody that knows the history or at least even the products of Patagonia. Is that, see, in strategy we talk about financial strength, but that's really what we call a lagging indicator. You get profits as a result of doing something well. In business, and it's true for nonprofits too. You get donations for being a great service provider as a nonprofit, and so really, what the product service quality piece is, and it's really an independent value, is how do we delight and engage our customers or our beneficiaries? How do we and it's been, and what Michael's research showed was that from an employee perspective, it really is an independent variable, is that employees really want to work for a company that excels at at its core purpose, as opposed to just making a lot of money. You need to make money in order to thrive long term, but those are two different focus areas. And really, I would say the unique aspect of the model isn't so much what the qualities of those four values, but how they interact with each other. Is really recognizing that they operate as a system, and sometimes they work together, and just as often they can pull against one another. And it's really embracing those tensions while at the same time understanding that all are necessary for long-term value creation.
Right, which is important. Now I imagine this SEER certificate that students have the opportunity to get while they're here at Pepperdine, they go off, and some of them I imagine have started business, worked for businesses, implemented some of the values in their businesses if the businesses have allowed them to. Talk to us about some of the alumni who have come through the program, who got the SEER certificate, and what they're doing now to spread the word, I guess, would be
sure.
Lack of a better
sure.
term.
So it's always been, so the SEER certificate, first to your question, the SEER certificate has always been married to the award-winning entrepreneurship concentration here at the business school. And so if all the students now take an intro to entrepreneurship with Dr. Larry Cox, and the SEER model is introduced at that phase, is really sort of, there's no better time to sort of actualize these values than when you're building a business. It's much harder to sort of figure out how they work, when a business is mature. It's not impossible, but it's harder. So we have lots of students that have started responsible fashion companies. There's specifically a company in Santa Monica called Powered By. That's a for-profit business that helps that does consulting and tech work for nonprofits. And at the same time, we have a lot of students that go off. I mean, one of the goals of the program always has been, we're not trying to train chief sustainability officers. There are business schools that focus on that. Presidio does a great job of focusing on that, as well as general responsible management. We're really looking for creating the next generation of best for the world responsible leaders. And so we're very happy to see people take their SEER certificate and walk into very what we'd call traditional career paths. And so there have been alumni that have gone through leadership development programs at major banks, telecommunications firms, and have of course, given our location, Hollywood, and move through those large corporate atmospheres while riding what I see as a trend, many people see as a trend, towards a greater focus on sustainability and social responsibility within the corporate landscape.
Now, I mentioned early on that this episode and a couple more episodes is kind of a series we're doing with a group called Net Impact. We had our first podcast episode of the Pepper Dynamics podcast was with Kayla Eber, who I believe is in the leadership role with Net Impact, and of course you serve as advisor. Talk to us a little bit about Net Impact and the connection between the SEER component and Net Impact on campus.
Yeah, and it's a deep one, Ty, because the SEER program really wouldn't exist without Pepperdine's Net Impact chapter. So Net Impact, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, is an organization. It's a global organization it started actually, of all places, in the Ivy League in their business schools. I think it was at Harvard, actually, a Harvard Business School, of MBAs that believe that the purpose of business should be to create social impact as well as financial gains. So a pretty simple concept. But it was pretty radical 20 years ago when it started, and it's now thousands of chapters at business schools. And of course, all those MBAs graduated, and so there's a lot of professional chapters around the world that still subscribe to this and work towards that goal of marrying profit and purpose through business. And so the SEER program came as a result of we've actually had a very long, vibrant Net Impact chapter here at Pepperdine. In fact, it's a gold level chapter for almost all of the 10 years that I've been involved with the business school, and it was right after the financial crisis, students at the Graziadio School say, we have this mission statement, we have this very strong focus on values and business, and yet we don't have anything explicitly in the curriculum that gives students an opportunity to explore what that looks like tangibly, beyond just sort of the idea that you should do good at the same time. So the SEER certificate was born because of a student push to have it. And that's why it was created as a certificate program rather than a concentration, because honestly, it doesn't really make sense to have a concentration where you'd have to choose between marketing and ethics. That doesn't make any sense. You should be ethical in every pathway. So in theory, you should be able to graduate with a finance degree. And we've had finance concentrators get the SEER certificate, marketing, leadership, of course, and also analytics. In fact, I have two analytics students right now in the capstone SEER class that I'm teaching currently.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. You called Net Impact a gold level chapter. Is that a national thing with Net Impact?
Yeah, the organization recognizes chapters that go above and beyond in events, in services. I mean, like this podcast, where there's a lot of activity. They recognize chapters that create a lot of interest and engagement around these themes. And so it's a strong partnership between the SEER program and Net Impact, and it's actually a requirement to get the SEER certificate. You must be a member in good standing of our Net Impact chapter.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Net Impact. I've had some interaction with them. They have a Monday evening kind of just chat for people, which I think is pretty good. I've been to it a few times this semester.
It's impressive how they've been able to keep up the level of engagement, given our social distancing and the pandemic and everything being virtual. So in the past, in what we'd call normal times, we would have events. They've done clothes swaps. They've done talk series, and of course, none of that is happening right now because we're all trying to stay safe.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. In our 4-hour classes that we take online.
Yes, and everyone's busy.
Okay. One last thing about SEER and really Net Impact. It's impressive that the students pushed Pepperdine to say, "Hey, we need to include a little more. We can't just talk the talk. Let's make sure we're walking the talk that we talk," right? So I think that's pretty impressive. And then SEER has a symposium which later on this month will take place. We'll have Jay Weisbecker on, Major Jay Weisbecker. He's a student and veteran, and he'll give us a little more info on it. But just touch briefly on what is the symposium? How long has it been going on here on campus?
It's been going on for 10 years, and this is we had a hiatus around our 50th anniversary as business school, but there was a SEER symposium component to that as well. So really, this is our shadow 10th SEER symposium, and it's an annual event that brings together all of our stakeholders for the program. So our students, our faculty, our alumni, our business community, entrepreneurs. Unsurprisingly, this year it's normally a live event. So last year it was held in Santa Monica. We had about 200 in-person attendees. It's usually an all-day event. This year, of course, that's not possible. So like everything, we've gone virtual. But it's really an opportunity to bring speakers, thought leaders, entrepreneurs from across the spectrum of business and activism to talk about the trends. And I think it's never been more critical than a time than the one we're in right now. So many, whether it's racial justice and equity issues, to the economic standstill, to the political divides. So we have, and of course, climate change is a strong factor here, and all of these things seem to be crashing together all at once. And so we have a very strong urgency around a systems level addressing of these issues. And so this year, we're really grateful to have a representative of the news media who's an authority on trust and how the news media works against and sometimes with social media to help build trust in a time when trust is at a low ebb. We have a speaker on the circular economy. We have a speaker on racial equity issues in finance. And so we're really recognizing, that's why the theme of this year is really seizing the moment, is really understanding that this is an inflection point for business and society, and how we have an opportunity here to kind of re-examine, if not rewrite, the rules of how our system works to create value for everybody.
Right. It sounds like an interesting event, and the 200 people that were in attendance last year, that's bigger than Pepperdine, right? It's not just.
It's a good size. It was who could fit in the room. So and of course we had more people that tuned in. The great thing about having it be virtual is that we can really allow for a lot. It's a shorter event, so it's only an hour and a half, and it allows us to reach everybody. So it's not if you're in LA. And you can take the day off of work, you can go. Now we can reach a much wider audience, and of course our alumni are everywhere. So it's nice to be able to reach out and give them the opportunity to engage in an event that might have been out of reach for them if it were in person.
That's excellent. Thinking about your work in academia and in the practical world, you've touched on some of this actually throughout this conversation. It seems to be focused on, as you mentioned, strategy and how that strategy ties or can tie to corporate social responsibility, and they all kind of tie to organizational leadership, organizational development, management, and a number of those things. I wonder about the connection between those areas for those of us who want a career, who may want to work within that intersection of those types of philosophies that you teach here at Pepperdine.
Right. Well, and this is why I said at the beginning of our conversation, Ty, that SEER is really a strategic mindset. And strategy is simply the way that you create the opportunities to create the outcomes that you want in life and in business. It doesn't matter. So SEER as an outcome is optimizing these four values. Strategy is the plans and the tools and the structures and the systems that you develop to make that happen. So it really is a strategic focus. And I would say this is for students. This is an imperative that really allows you to think broadly about what it is that what change you want to create in the world. What's your purpose? And so, as I said before, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to work for an Allbirds or a Tom's or, Patagonia. You don't have to work for a B Corp in order to work for a company or organization that's dedicated towards creating social value.
Right. Well, this has been an excellent conversation, Rob. I really appreciate you joining us here on the Pepper Dynamics podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
That was Robert Bikel. He is the director of the SEER program and instructor of SEER Business and Management at Pepperdine Grazio Dio Business School. And of course, this is Ty Brown with the Pepper Dynamics podcast, where our goals are to recruit, retain, highlight, and inform the Grazio Dio Business School graduate community. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.